You touched someone's heart and didn't even notice. That person was left with it, with that feeling. Maybe a gesture of yours, a look, a loose word, and suddenly something in that person changed. You moved on, but for them, that moment stayed. It became a feeling, a presence they can't ignore. Have you ever stopped to think about that? You touched a part of them that others don't reach, and now every time they think of you, something awakens. It's not rational. It's not something that can be explained in words. It's just that memory, a smile that appears unintentionally, a living memory that beats in their chest. What you did maybe was nothing special for you, but for them it was. It was enough to make their heart beat differently. And now what are you going to do about it? Type in the comments to let me know. This person can't get you out of their head anymore. It all started so simply. You crossed paths in that place that's part of their routine, a place they visit often without expecting big changes. And then you appeared. Maybe it was a brief encounter, or even a short conversation. But since then, the thought of you hasn't left their mind. They find themselves imagining what it would be like to be close to you again, to feel your presence, to hear your voice. That first encounter, which for you may have been casual, for them was transformational. It was a moment in which they felt something deep, something they hadn't felt in a long time, something they almost didn't know they could feel anymore. That moment became a memory that they relive, even when they try to forget. They don't know if you noticed, but for them that moment was unique, special. Every time she passes by that same place, she finds herself looking around, hoping to see you again, even though she knows it might not happen. She doesn't want to feel this way, but she can't help it. It's as if something in you sparked a fire inside her, and now that spark burns, silent and insistent. She wonders if you feel the same. Did you, at any moment, feel that connection? Or was it just her? The thought consumes her and she knows she may never have an answer, but somehow she hopes you notice her, that you understand what that moment meant to her. Days go by, and this person continues with her life, trying to put her feelings back in place. But it's hard. She finds herself reliving every word, every look, every gesture. She knows that maybe it was just a fleeting moment, an illusion she created in her head. But she also feels that something in you was genuine, real. Now, she wonders if she should speak up, if she should try to get closer, even without knowing if you feel the same. The fear of exposing herself, of taking a risk, is strong. But the desire to understand what happened, what there is between you two, seems greater. She starts imagining encounters, possibilities. In her mind, these scenarios are perfect. A reunion, a look that says everything, a conversation that finally clarifies what she feels. It's almost impossible to resist these fantasies, even though she knows reality can be very different. And while you go on with your life, perhaps without even realizing the impact you had, she remains there, living between doubt and hope. She tries to forget, but it's impossible. Every time she revisits that place, the thoughts return, the sensations take over, and your presence becomes stronger. Even without knowing exactly what she feels, she clings to every memory. She spends her days caught between moving on or trying something, even with the risk of not being reciprocated. Days turn into weeks, and doubts grow. She wants to see you, wants to talk, to understand what happened between you two during that brief encounter. She feels that getting closer to you could be the answer she has been searching for, but at the same time, she is afraid of hearing that maybe it was all just an impression, of realizing that you didn't notice her the same way she noticed you. Even so, an impulse drives her to do something she probably would never have the courage to do. On one of those routine visits to the same place, she decides to wait, to stay longer, hoping for a reunion. Her heart races, and time seems to drag on. She feels a bit ridiculous, but at the same time, something inside her tells her that maybe you'll appear. And then suddenly, you emerge. The moment feels surreal to her. You are there, back again, and she realizes that this casual encounter is the chance she has been longing for. But what to say? How to approach you? Every word she rehearsed in her mind disappears, leaving only a nervousness she cannot hide. However, you, perhaps noticing the glimmer of recognition in her eyes, approach, curious, a bit wary, but with a smile that disarms any defenses she might have had. The words, finally begin to flow. You talk about the time that has passed, how life has gone on since that first encounter, and every sentence spoken seems to carry an underlying significance, a layer of feelings that both of you begin to notice. She feels her heart pounding, and for a moment realizes that you also seem a bit nervous, a bit off your own pace. There is a tension there, an energy she cannot define, but she feels it is mutual. And then, in a moment of courage, she asks you something simple, yet laden with the weight of the feelings she's been carrying. Have you thought about me since that day? The question comes out with a naturalness that surprises her, but instead of dodging or changing the subject, you look at her for a moment, perhaps trying to understand what is truly being asked. And with an honesty she didn't expect, you respond that yes, you have. That in some way you were also affected by that moment, even without understanding why. The response seems to relieve a part of her that has been tense for so long. Knowing that you also thought about it, that the encounter was more than just a coincidence for you, brings her a sense of relief, a feeling of belonging that she never imagined she would feel. And then the atmosphere between you two changes. There's no longer that invisible barrier, that distance filled with uncertainties. The meetings start to become more frequent. With each conversation, with each exchange of glances, you both begin to discover that what seemed like a simple momentary connection is, in fact, something much deeper. You share stories, reveal small vulnerabilities, laugh at the coincidences and small synchronicities that seem to appear every day. But not everything is easy. With closeness also comes the fear of getting hurt, of exposing feelings that may still be premature, fragile. She especially feels a mix of emotions. The happiness of having you close and the fear that everything might suddenly fall apart, like a mirage. Together you both try to understand this new feeling, this connection that defies explanations. Days turn into weeks, and each meeting becomes a little more intimate, more genuine. She realizes that you, like her, carry a baggage of experiences, past stories, some of them painful. Gradually, she feels like she is starting to understand what it truly means to care about someone, without idealizations, without illusions. And in one of these meetings, during a conversation that reveals even more than the glances, she realizes something. You are building something, something that goes beyond chance, beyond expectations. It's a connection made of reality, of ordinary days that together become extraordinary. And while you hold her hand, a gesture that seems so natural now, she knows it was all worth it. Time passes, and with each meeting, the two of you become more rooted in each other in a way you never thought possible. What started as a chance encounter, an almost imperceptible moment, has turned into something intense, a bond that you are still learning to understand. She often finds herself surprised at how much she thinks about you, how every detail of her routine now carries your presence. The simple act of having coffee or walking down the streets feels different when she knows that at some point you will meet again. And more than that each encounter strengthens something that is hard to put into words, but that both of you feel so real. But life, as always, tests, and it doesn't take long for the first challenges to arise. In one of these meetings, you share something personal, an issue you've been carrying for a long time, a fear or perhaps an insecurity that is part of who you are. She feels the impact of this, and something within her awakens the desire to protect you, to be there by your side. But at the same time, she perceives the weight of wanting to get close to someone without losing sight of her own space, without forgetting who she is. These issues are gaining space. It's not easy because the desire to be with you, to dive head first, is great. But she knows that building something true requires patience. It requires that both get to know each other, and more importantly, respect each other's rhythms. She realizes that she can't save you from your own fears, just as you can't protect her from her own pains. The reality of what you both are living now becomes clearer. This feeling demands commitment, but it also requires space. You start having more intense, more honest conversations. Conversations that go beyond the good moments and begin to touch on wounds, on issues that each of you bring from other stories, other people. At times, she feels fear, a sensation that perhaps the weight of what you both carry might separate you. But there's something that makes her want to stay, even in the most difficult moments, and the same happens with you. It's as if both of you feel that, despite the difficulties, what exists between you is rare and worth fighting for. One day, in a deeper conversation, you reveal something she didn't know, something that shows a part of you she hadn't known before. Maybe it's a memory, an experience that shaped who you are. She listens attentively, feels the weight of what it represents for you, and something inside her softens. She realizes that we are all made of these layers, these stories we carry, and that only when we have the courage to share who we truly are can something real be built. Your relationship then begins to transform into something more mature, more solid. It is not just initial passion, not merely the enchantment of the first dates. It's a coexistence, an exchange that requires patience and a genuine desire to build. There are days when she feels light, happy, filled with your presence. But there are also days when doubts arise, days when she questions if she is ready for this kind of commitment, for the challenges that come with true intimacy. And then on an ordinary afternoon, she finds herself looking at you, at the way you speak, how you gesture, how you view the world. And in that moment, everything becomes clear. She realizes that what she feels is real. It is deep. It's something she wants to pursue with all the imperfections and challenges that may arise. She understands she doesn't need certainties or promises. Because what you have is not about control, it's not about holding each other, but about walking together, respecting each step. She understands that love is not just about being close, but about allowing the other to be themselves, even when that is difficult. You continue the journey now with more awareness, with more truth. And what started as a brief encounter, an almost invisible moment, transforms into your story. A story full of highs and lows, moments of doubt and passion, long conversations and shared silences. A real story, which both of you know can change at any moment, but which for as long as it lasts will be lived with all that you are. And now at this point in the journey, she knows she is ready to live this. There are no guarantees, no promise of eternal happiness, but there is a genuine willingness to be there, to build something that is true for both of you. She looks at you and understands that deep down this is what love is. It is choice, it is commitment, it is being willing to live the reality without illusions. You stay together, not because you expect a perfect ending, but because each moment with all its nuances builds something that both of you value. She learned that real love is not about avoiding discomfort or keeping up appearances. It's about accepting that things won't always be easy, that on certain days doubts and fears will appear. But despite that, choosing to be by your side is the decision that makes the most sense. Over time, you find a harmony that is not free of flaws, but is full of truth. The silences between you are no longer heavy, they become a form of presence. She realizes that it's not always necessary to speak, that simply being there, sharing the same space, is a language you both understand. There is a depth between you that only those who allow themselves to be vulnerable can experience. Some nights are filled with conversations that last until dawn, while others are marked by a silent peace where the exchange is made through looks and gestures. And it is in these moments of simplicity that she realizes what truly matters. You remind her of who she is, of her own strengths and vulnerabilities without trying to mold her. And she does the same for you because she understands that love is not possession, but shared freedom. Days go by, and you create a collection of memories not made of grand events, but of everyday moments. Unexpected laughter, holding hands during a walk, coffee shared at dawn. These are the details that build the intimacy you both cherish. She feels that with you, each small experience gains greater meaning, a beauty that perhaps was not noticed before. But most importantly, both know that they don't need an idealized ending for this story to have value. She knows that regardless of what the future brings, these moments are unique. They are part of who she is and what you represent to each other. And maybe along the way, your lives will go in directions that no one can predict. But that doesn't scare anymore, because what she lived with you was authentic, it was honest. By your side, she learned to see love as a journey, not a destination. A journey that even with uncertainties is worth taking.